your camera on. So if you're interested in speaking or whatever, call in, have any type of commentary, just click on the link that's in the description. Also, you can click on the link that's right there posted in the chat. It's a StreamYard link right there in the chat. That being said, without further ado, let me know if y'all can't hear this sound.
When 29-year-old Curtis Jones walks out of South Bay Prison Tuesday, it will be in many ways as a child in a man's body. After all, Curtis was only 12 when he and his older sister by a year were sentenced to 18 years and probation for life for the murder of Sonia Nicole Spites in 1999. I have written about the case over the years and how Curtis and Catherine's cries for help after being sexually abused went unheeded, and how they had planned to kill others, including the abuser. Now Curtis is being released without ever having shopped for groceries, applied for a job, hunted for an apartment, or learned to drive. In Sunday's column, I decided to look at how the Florida Department of Corrections prepares inmates for reentry.
You're muted.
That right there was just a really brief clip. I try to keep it down under a minute, but basically what we have is we have kids. He was 12 years old and he was being molested by an adult. And the only way he can get it to stop is actually one day his sister, he was 12 and his sister was 13. They were coming home from the bus stop and he told his sister that he was being molested by an older adult. And his sister told him and said, "Hey, I'm being molested by him too." So at nighttime, what the boy wanted to do is he wanted to go and sleep in the room with his sister because the older guy would come and lay with the brother, but he was laying and molesting both of them at the same time. So what the brother and sister did is they plotted to kill him. So they got a gun and they shot him and killed him. But as a result of them killing them, the state then issued both of them a life sentence as kids, and they were the youngest kids in the history of the United States to ever be sentenced to a life sentence at the age of 12 years old.
Okay.
Very troubling. Talking to me, Dr. Joe, what you think about that psychology and the mental abuse along with that, the trauma?
First of all, I just want to say that this happens very often, way too often, where someone's being molested, children are being molested, they finally get the strength and they kill the aggressor and they end up in jail, and instead of the other person or whoever paying for this, the victims are the ones paying for what has happened to them. What these kids are, I think there should be a law where it protects these people. Now they're adults, where it protects them from going to jail when they kill someone when they're being abused, especially sexually abused. Once you're sexually abused, especially, I'm not talking about molestation. There's different levels. Of course, it's trauma, but sexually abused, they're traumatized for the rest of their lives. They should have gotten help instead of gone to jail, but this happens way too often. I don't understand why they keep on protecting the aggressor rather than the person that's being the victim. So now they have no job, right? Because their background is already screwed. Their mind is screwed already. So even if they do have a job, can they really survive out there in the world? Because on top that they were sexually molested, they were also in a jail system. So on top of that, they put them in a box. So they punish them for being a victim of sexual abuse. So they pretty much can't function for a couple of years. That they destroyed their lives, the system and whoever sexually abused them.
That's bad business. Tony, what you think about that, man?
9 times out of 10, the same thing happened to them. They probably portrayed in the prison system. That's what they knew. Then it was separated, so it felt like, I'm sure, they was them against the world. So it's hard sometimes to realize that you become the demon that you hate or the monster that you fear, but it happens every day. I'm a critic of the law on a lot of ends, and sometimes good people can get caught in a bad situation. I can see where they might say, well, there are a lot of people, things aren't traumatizing to them, but yet they'll still display, well, I won't say display. it might be something like something doesn't really make me afraid. Just like when you shoot somebody, you can have the right to shoot them, but the real question comes into play was, were you really in danger for your life? That's well to me. I was scared. It becomes an issue of, was this your only way out? And you know, some people say, listen, he come with a knife. I ain't got time. Yeah, I'm not running. He shouldn't have ran up on me. So they try to depend, and you try to decide what cases are didn't have a choice and what cases are you were looking for a reason or somebody. I remember they had a case, there's been so many. They had a quote unquote white Caucasian guy. He would go in the parking lot and start with people to get them to go in where they'll try to hit him. He had a gun, and this black guy, he was arguing with this black lady, quote unquote black lady. The boyfriend came out and he saw him arguing with her, and he was like, you know, when he pushed the white guy. And then he put his bag down. The black guy put his bag down and pull his pants up. And the white guy was on the right, he shot him. A couple of times he died.
What?
What? Yeah, that was on the news. Should have happened probably about 2 years ago. And the store owner finally told him the white guy does that. He purposely stays up there and gets in the conflict. He wanted somebody to hit him so he could justify shooting him. Now, in another case, just say he was just hold the guy down and the guy pushed him. And he really feared. He on the ground, the guy put up his pants. I didn't know that was the young guy's sign. He was getting the guns. A lot of them keep guns in their pants. I'm an older man. I'm pushed down on the ground by him. Now shooting this is different. I don't know what's happening, but if I provoke the situation, if I, cause the situation to happen, then I can't go and say, oh, I was defending my life. You more or less encouraged it more than you was a defender of your life. And I say all that to say, those kids killing him, to me, it didn't make a difference when they done it. They ain't had to wait till him to do it again. They could have killed him at any time. I'd have been good. But you look at people who will take their trauma. Like I had some things have me traumatized. I say traumatized to the average person, but it ain't traumatizing to me that I want to go out and kill people. Start running people over in cars. None of it. It's not even an issue. So there are people that take advantage of situations. They look for those, opportunities to use it for their, for their reasoning of killing. So I'm sure. I won't say I'm sure. I would have liked to have heard all of the evidence that was proposed, because we're hearing these kids were given life in prison. There's not a jury that would have possibly given them life in prison without. There are some other mitigating situations. So there are some statements that some information came up from them plotting it. They just wanted to kill him anyway. They didn't like him. Some other people. It doesn't make sense. There's no way to me logically that a jury heard this case and said life in prison. Now, Resident Joe, you tell me what you think.
Someone just posted a comment that makes more sense now. Supposedly they killed the girlfriend that was not molesting them. So, but to me is who was this man that was sexually abusing them? I missed that.
Let me read the article.
Mm-hmm.
See if we can provide a little more perspective or whatever. See if we can get a little more detail. So I'm gonna pull back up the article.
I ain't know nothing about it.
I'm trying to skate through it.
I know something has been going on.
So Curtis Fairchild walked into prison as a 12-year-old boy. On Tuesday morning, he walked out 29-year-old man. Prison officials confirmed that Jones was released. He refused interviews, but he leaves prison as a convicted murderer, a victim of childhood sexual abuse, a brother to a sister scheduled to be released from prison Saturday, and ordained minister. Time will tell if he has a chance to work through his demons that terrorized his childhood and drove him to take a life. Curtis, along with Catherine, his older sister by a year, shot and killed their father's girlfriend, Sonia Nicole Spice, in 1999. They also had planned to kill their father and a male relative who they said was sexually molesting them. No one believed they were being abused, even after investigators from what is now the Department of Children and Families identified evidence of the abuse.
They did. Okay.
Yeah.
They didn't find anything, did they?
They did. They found evidence.
Yeah, they say they found evidence
that they were being abused.
And yeah, it says that the Department of Children and Families identified evidence of the abuse. So they were able to document it. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, is this children probably went through a whole life of abuse. It's not only For them to feel to the point that I want to kill someone and I'm going to kill you and I'm going to kill you, you have to be at a point in your life where you're done. The frustration in your life is completely over the roof. So I'm putting myself in their shoes is the only way to understand. If I'm being sexually abused by my father, by my uncle, and etc., the only really there's no way of thinking other way but I'm going to kill these people. I'm tired. I got to defend myself. So I mean, people see traumas and face traumas differently. But when you think about it, when somebody's been so abused so many times in life, there's no way they're in their brain that they can react in a logical way. You know what I'm saying? They're going to snap. It's just an animal snaps when you keep on abusing them. You can imagine a human being, and then at some point you lose reaction of, or let's just calm down and think. They're not calm and they're not thinking. So I'm sure they were tired and that there was just, I'm done. I'm killing these people. Mentally speaking.
It had to be something. You know, a lot of times when evidence get presented, what a jury sees and what the audience hear is different. I think if you had a jury, it'll be rare to probably find 12 people that had some form of molestation or some, some type of trauma, something similar, what it was. If it wasn't them, a cousin, a sister, a brother, an uncle or aunt, either the mother or the father, it's almost impossible to get away from it.
Yeah.
And other than pedophiles, I couldn't see just, people sitting there hearing the evidence of there was abuse. And then, because they had to tell you what was also be the punishment. Life in prison, no possibility of parole until these are minor kids. And I'm going to say guilty, knowing you're going to take that much of their life. The evidence that was given had to be pretty strong to show that this was a little more than just the trauma. Because you got to figure, you're going to put experts on that too. You know that. You're not going to, when you're dealing with a case of trauma, whether or not a person was competent or competency, you're always going to bring experts in to say, based on studies, and people don't realize that that's a hard case because you can't try them to get to a certain age when you giving them like they're minors. So everything's against you. For a jury to say, convincingly, all 12 to say guilty and get them life in prison, I'm almost sure. And I ain't agreeing. Listen, they molest them. They ain't die fast enough. But I'm almost sure there's some other thing. And you gotta remember the experts gonna look at this now. Did your trauma from this can be associated to this to justify this? And a jury of 12 people all said no. You knew that had to come up now. But I would like to know this is my whole thing for me. I'm an advocate for when something I look like something look wrong to police them. I want to get them. I want to get on whoever it is wrong. But let's be honest. A lot of times we can get out information. Just like we saw that video last week, the police getting out the motorcycle. This whole case, like it started out about a police messing with a guy jaywalking. Mm-hmm. How did someone? But see, these are the things people set us up with video because they're like the police on the motorcycle. He see a guy because I was like, why you bother? It's jaywalk. You wasted more time getting out the motorcycle. Talk with him now, and the guy scared of him is like, what did the guy know about him? Oh, he's gonna try to kill me. Then he running. So it looks like, wow, maybe something going on here. And it looked like it's something going on to hurt him. You caused the accident. You ran away from the scene of crime. I'm chasing you still, trying to deal with you civilly without hurting you. Give you opportunity to, okay, sit here, listen, stop. I could have, when I came on that motorcycle, I should have came out that motorcycle dead in your chest. Well, because you done ran away, and I'm trying to tell you you're not obeying commands. They showed him on the ground. The white man called his name. Next thing you know, he died. I'm all against him dying on the ground. It shouldn't have. If anything would happen, he got that motorcycle. Based on what happened, the job that went with the job. Mm-hmm. But we keep getting videos, stories. Just tell us the whole thing so we can process. The world is rotten. Okay, these kids killed 3 people that were molesting them. Okay, A DA has to look at it for you taking them. You're going to take it to a grand jury, present evidence. A grand jury going to say, yes, there is probable cause to take this and go at prosecution. DAs don't just take cases. There's a lot of stuff people don't know. You have to look at a conviction. This is a story that's going to be on the news. You're going to look like a fool trying to prosecute 2 minor kids that were molested, unless you have strong evidence to show that these were murders.
Yeah.
So what it says,
And I would like to know.
It say the siblings shot Spikes with their father's handgun, hitting her 4 times out of 9 bullets fired. They immediately realized their tragic blunder. They tried to cover up the crime and ran to a neighbor's house to say there was an accident. They eventually fled to a wooded area where they hid for the night before the Brevard County Sheriff's investigators found them near Port St. John on the morning of January 7th. The story of the siblings, Catherine Jones and Curtis Fairchild, is a tragic tale of several people in the system that failed these 2 young victims before dumping them in prison. Senior Resources says that there's an advocacy group working to promote changes in sentencing policies among other reforms related to incarceration. It seems that even a cursory look at the childhood environment and the backgrounds of their caretakers would have prompted grave concern and care rather than stiff prison terms. They hold the record for the youngest kids to ever be sentenced to life sentence.
I'm sorry, Love Doctor. My whole thing here is they were sentenced for life prison, but eventually decided to get them out. Meaning they said, we made a mistake. So there had to be some type of thought.
It's not a mistake. I hadn't read it, but you know what? Because they give you life in prison, they give you life in prison with possibility of parole. So they gave you, like, if they got in trouble anytime, they would have to do that rest of that sentence. So they're really in a real critical state right now.
So here's how they got the kids. It says, but facing life in prison after Brevard County, Florida, the prosecutors made the kids the youngest ever charged as adults with first-degree murder. They remained quiet about the abuse, and they pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and accepted the sentence of 18 years and probation for life. There was no trial. There was no testimony.
That makes sense.
There was no opportunity to present the documentation to the. Wow.
A lot of these kids don't have anyone to protect them. No lawyer.
Yeah, they were little kids. They got in an interrogation room by the cops and got scared. That's what it clearly sounds like. Wow.
That's the thing, and it's happened to sadly, when I was working in the court system, a lot of my kids were being put in prison because they had no lawyers.
Listen, this is a whole nother set of problems. These kids were questioned. That should